Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Aeons. Welcome to Strange Aeons Radio, a very special Happy Halloween edition.
Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween!
That's Eric Morgan over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa Williams over there.
Ooh.
I'm Kelly Young, and we're recording this on Halloween-ish day.
Yeah.
Recording it?
All you guys need to know,
Massive, fast turnaround.
it's spooky, it's dark out, there's rain. It's basically Halloween for us.
That'll work.
Yeah, so Vanessa, I've got a big surprise for you.
Oh God, okay.
Don't say it like that.
I'm terrified.
Yo, Vanessa. Prior to you joining this podcast, every once in a while, Eric and I would start off with a little game, something I like to call The Price is Fright.
Oh. I don't remember doing notes before.
No, because
right.
usually it was just me asking you a question, but now you're going to be playing against Vanessa for this.
Ooh. We get to compete on note cards.
Vanessa, the way this game works is I'm sure that you're very aware that there are these big auction houses that will auction off movie memorabilia.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And I usually try and pick a couple of items that are priced, or not priced, but are kind of in a similar vein, and then I make Eric guess what they might have been sold for.
I am going to be so
wildly inaccurate on those guesses.
The point is that you should be bad at this because these things go for crazy amounts of money sometimes.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's a hint. That's a hint.
So I think that you're going to have fun, but
Okay.
I want you guys to write down your numbers so that you can't see. And the winner will be chosen by me,
Okay.
regardless of what your points are.
It doesn't matter how
points
close
matter
you
nothing.
are.
Right. Vanessa, this one was a London auction house, and I know that you lived over there
So
for
we
a
have
while.
to guess in pounds.
Well, no, I was going
Quid.
to ask if
500.
since all the prices were in pounds, I was hoping that you could translate them to kilograms for me.
Oh, hey-oh.
Is
that
That's
how
the
this
level
works?
of humor.
I was hoping you'd say dollars, and you threw me off so hard. Now I don't know what to do.
No, I already did the conversion to dollars.
Oh, okay. Got
So
it. What if I go back to pounds in my answer?
that would be awesome if you could do that, but I didn't actually write down the pounds part.
It depends on the year.
Okay.
Okay.
These also, you should know, this just happened.
Oh, okay, great.
So-
All right. I think I have a rough idea.
Okay, so the topic for this game is weapons from famous movies. Oh, now, generally, nice. I would ask Eric to write down what he thought they would cost, but he would also have to figure out. I always choose 3, and he would always have to figure out the most or least expensive to most expensive. Yes. So he would put it in some kind of order and then try and give a guess of what it actually sold for. Now, these actually sold for these prices too.
Okay.
Did I write down what they were? No, at first I was going to write down the estimate of what they thought they were going to sell for, and then
How high they went above it.
Right. But that's no fun because that kind of gives you an idea, and I don't like you to have an idea.
Okay. All right. No clues. Got
So,
it.
Okay. These are some good items too, you
Okay.
guys.
Nice.
Ones we would want in our own house.
Fuck yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I was like, a toothpick.
So, the first item you will be bidding on is from the movie Star Wars: A New Hope. It is Luke Skywalker's production-made lightsaber.
Holy shit.
Oh, man. Okay. And this was in London?
Yes, this was in London, if that helps somehow.
It might. Let's see. I'm going to go for...
So we're talking like the hero lightsaber?
Yes, it is.
Jesus
Now, there were a
Christ.
couple of them that were done that way, but this is the production-made. I got to see pictures.
Before we continue,
Yes.
notice why I don't handwrite my notes.
Oh, it's great. You're just missing some, like you
It's like
lift the
freaking
pen.
hieroglyphics.
You lift your pen too often.
I
That's
do.
why.
Yep.
But it's still like if you didn't lift your pen, it would still be words.
Well, also
I actually have the opposite problem where I just press down for too long. Combined, we almost have handwriting.
Oh man, let's not forget that
Anyways.
Eric was also raised by wolves, and so
Got it.
All right.
the second item you will be bidding on is from the movie The Matrix, and it is Neo's pair of Beretta pistols.
Okay.
The two of them.
I bet his
Has
sunglasses
a pair.
would go for more than the.
This is about weapons, Vanessa.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. I forgot. Sorry. Got it. Okay. All right.
And then the final item you will be bidding on is from the movie The Shining. It is the hero axe that Jack Torrance uses
God,
to
man.
break down the door.
Oh, that's cool. I can't believe they sold that.
So there's an interesting story behind it too. So what you're doing is you're putting in order least expensive to most expensive, and then giving me a price range. And if you guys want to kind of talk it out, I'm totally fine.
Like to each other?
No, I don't want you to talk it out to each other.
What?
But I wouldn't mind if you wanted to like trash talk and maybe try to confuse the other person.
Yeah, basketball. Seahawks.
Nobody likes Luke.
Everybody likes.
That's right. So Star Wars was not very good, so probably that sold for the cheapest, I guess.
right.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see.
So many questions. I'm trying to
Locked
do
in?
my British
think we're all right,
conversion
yeah,
right
it's
now. Okay, I'm just gonna go for pounds. So you'll have
Well,
to.
then how do I convert that?
I don't care. However you like.
Just
This is
get
your
out
game.
your wallet and look at it.
Yeah. Check on the phone. Do you want me to check on the phone? Do you want me to convert right now for you? Oh, it's too hard for Kelly to
I
convert.
can't believe that you wouldn't just write it in
no,
the first place.
I refuse. I need a visuals for this right now, okay?
What the hell is going on?
I have no idea. I thought my kilograms joke was funny, and now I'm way too far.
Okay, hold on. I
Now, is
just
this
need 1
pre
second.
or post Brexit vote too?
Well, I'm just doing it
Is
for
it
today.
pounds or is it
Well,
whatever
if it's-
they called
I'm
what
gonna-
it was?
I'm just gonna go
under
with-
the
well, if it was-
European Union.
Exactly. So if it's 2,010 dollars, then we're in a different world.
It's 2019.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
exactly,
just
then we're
happened.
good.
Because this just
So we-
happened. It is the movies memorabilia auction from
Okay.
2019. If you guys want to go on and you can look at all the items that were sold there, and there's some really cool shit like actual puppets, screen used puppets from Gremlins 2. There were a number of those. This came up because in the regular news, one of these items fetched a price that normal folk decided they had to know about. And I was like, oh shit, I got to go and look on this auction and see if I can make this game happen.
Nice. Okay. Well, I finished my conversions for
Okay.
you. Okay.
Okay, so Eric, why don't you go first?
Okay, because
And-
I'm going to lose anyway. So
And
if you were familiar with this game,
I'm just
you would
gonna-
already know that.
I'm just gonna lose by sassing Kelly to a point where he doesn't want to put up with me anymore.
You need to get to know Kelly a little better.
Talk me
see.
through it.
So I put Neo as the lowest one,
Okay.
just because the pedigree of Matrix movies isn't quite as strong as the other two.
Okay.
Okay.
The Shining is kind of in a revival right now because of the new movie coming out, and it's constantly being brought up again and again as one of the masterpieces of horror now, when before it was sort of overlooked. So that was number 2 for me, is The Shining.
Okay.
And of course, Star Wars is Star Wars, and no matter what the people whine about with the last movie, it's still awesome.
Yeah.
So I had that as the top selling.
Let me hear your prices.
Okay, so $200,000 for Neo, $100,000 a gun. Not much more for Shining, but $250,000 for the Shining axe,
Okay.
and $1.5 million for Luke's lightsaber,
Whoa.
Wow.
That's real cash flow.
which I'm
Somebody
sure are
had
all
money.
horribly lower than what they probably actually sold.
Jeez,
Oh
okay.
man, now I'm
All right,
feeling
Vanessa.
nervous
no,
about this.
no.
So I had a very similar thought process to Eric over here. So exact same order of beliefs of what had what value. So Matrix lowest, then Shining number 2, and Star Wars number 1.
Similar reasoning, or did you have different
Exact
reasoning?
same reason.
Oh,
exact same reason. Our brains are on the same line, sir. Matrix,
I'm
however,
sorry.
I went for 80K. It's 80,000 pounds, which is $103,000.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the number 3. Number 2, The Shining Axe, 250,000 pounds, which is $324,000.
Okay.
And number 1, Star Wars New Hope. This is where we were very different.
Okay.
And I went for 450,000 pounds, which would be $584,000.
Man, you guys are so off.
No.
But the auction houses would love if you were there bidding this much on this junk. So.
Please say it was like a couple bucks each.
So, well, okay, you both got the Matrix in the right spot.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But you could have got both of those pistols for a steal for only $7,900.
Really?
Yeah. And they're actual working Beretta pistols, too.
Wow.
Oh, weird.
Seriously? Why would they have that on set?
Because he
is
has to be
dangerous.
shooting blanks. These are the actual guns he is shooting. So they have to
I
be
see.
working.
Wow.
Ah.
Your second picks were wrong. The Star Wars lightsaber
Really?
was second.
No way.
And it
That gives me hope.
It fetched. Does it give you a new hope?
Too easy.
Okay.
Low hanging.
It fetched only $190,000.
Whoa.
Wow.
Well, I was closer at least.
Yeah.
I only say
Ta-da.
only $190,000 because you picked $1.5 million. Jesus Christ!
And
man.
at least I was $584,000 US dollars. That was way closer.
Yeah. And now I feel bad because this number that the axe sold for was amazing. They thought it was going to sell between $50,000 and $70,000.
Sure.
But you guys both put it at second place and for more than it sold for. It only sold for $221,000.
Only?
But the best part of this story is Kubrick famously does not like things taken from the set and sold. And so he has things destroyed. But somebody on the set took this axe and then it got used as an axe for the next several years. Because the guy who took it was using it on his woodpile.
What a good dude.
Oh, that's
you know what? That's
fantastic.
exactly what should happen. You buy an item, use it. Come on.
Well, he
That's
didn't buy
hilarious.
it. He just took it
Oh,
from
I'm
the
sorry.
set
You
because
steal an item?
he needed an axe.
Really? That's
Yep.
great. That's amazing.
And so
That's pretty
He's a hero.
Was this the same guy that then was able to sell it?
yes.
Oh, that's great.
So
Well, I'm done with this axe. I've used it a lot. I think I'll sell it.
No good to me more.
Oh,
Gonna
my.
put her out to pasture.
Now I'll go buy a new house.
Worth it.
anyway, guys, the listeners have been screaming for a game again. Eric and I used to do this at the beginning of every episode, something like this, or I would make him choose between 3 similar things, and I'll try to get more of that happening in the future. I think it's kind of a fun way to loosen the brain and the tongue and everything like that. And everybody now is just ready to
You could
jump
just-
right into this episode, right?
You could just start us with shots. It would be the same.
Shots.
See?
Damn music.
We could even play that music while we're doing it, and then we really would probably be like the Boo Crew, right?
There you go. I can use the audio of the music sound or game show sound effects I still have. I haven't used those in a long time. That's right. Which we will definitely get.
I've been doing a lot of talking today, you guys. Have you seen and been
Oh,
up to
I have
it?
a weird little rant.
Ooh.
Okay.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna
I'm
start with
excited.
here. It's movie related. My least favorite style of review, and you see it a lot. I think both of you, maybe you've used it. If you have, fine. But it's generally done by Twitter reviewers because it's short and simple. If a movie is so bad that your automatic response is, "That's 90 minutes of my life I'll never get back."
Oh.
15 minutes into that goddamn movie, turn it off. You knew long before 90 minutes was done that you were going to hate that movie. I can guarantee you didn't watch 89 minutes and that last minute that ruined the whole movie. That 90 minutes of my life is now gone. It's like, there's lots more to watch.
You know what? I totally am on the same page with you because as a film editor, I'm like, if I had that mentality, I would have to have hung myself so many times by now. It's like, oh my God, why did I watch 5 million hours of that film over and over again? Oh, turn it off, guys. Not good.
Did something happen?
I don't know, some stupid review somebody posted somewhere, probably on
It was just the last
probably
straw.
on horror everything, because it's full of a lot of people who have terrible opinions.
I meant like for a particular movie that no.
Nope. But
Vanessa and I were just talking about how you are a very passionate man, and I think that the listeners heard exactly what we meant. I'm a little scared
knew.
actually after that outburst.
feel free to use that review, but I will judge you.
Yeah.
And done.
Now I'll judge you too. Jeez, I've been compelled. The power of Eric's compelled me. I'm completely in tune with this.
Well, you guys, I started watching the new Watchmen series.
Oh my gosh. I am looking forward to hearing what you think.
That's 60 minutes of my life I'll never get back.
No.
I don't believe you.
I thought you liked it.
I did like it.
Oh, okay.
I liked it quite a bit. It is not an adaptation of the comic or the film.
Okay.
It takes place in 2019, which means it takes place 30-some years after the events of the comic book.
Ooh. Okay.
And the events of the comic book are referenced a couple of times. As far as I can tell, does not star any of the characters from the comic book. We're getting all new characters.
So it's in the Watchmen cinematic universe.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't come right out and said that Jeremy Irons is Ozymandias, but he clearly is. But he's not he's not the character that we know from the book. Things have changed drastically for him.
Ooh.
And I gotta say, it's fucking dark and intense. I mean, the first episode starts with some pretty bleak stuff and historically accurate stuff too. So you're watching some stuff that is like, whew, okay.
Ooh.
But yeah, I like it.
That's awesome to hear. A friend of mine is the VFX supervisor of that show. Ooh. I know. I was trying to get work, but thanks, Keith. No jobs yet on that guy. Wow. Oh, no, actually. I'm actually super stoked. I was really excited to find out like how it turned out. And he said he was actually pretty pleasantly surprised with how a lot of it went. So, because you never know with something where you're taking such a beloved property, as it was making a movie about it was terrifying. And then I really like the film, but
well, that's cool.
Then
I think we're in that minority. It seems almost. So many people seem to have hated that movie. I thought
that's
it
so
was
weird.
Really
it was
good.
so
hearing
good.
that, but then everyone that I know is like, no, I like the movie.
Yeah.
So,
I rewatched it a couple years ago because I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong because like maybe I remembered it inaccurately and I liked it, but everybody else who said it sucked. No, it's like probably by far that dude's best film. I can't remember his name now.
Zack
Snyder. That one.
I mean, it was long considered to be a film that, an adaptation that could not be made. It would just be too difficult. And I don't know that Snyder really understood what the comic was about, but I do think that it was probably the best adaptation of the source material we were going to get.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think there was a lot of there was just so much effort put into everything in the film that really, even if it was missing some of the heart of the comic, it still really shined. Like,
definitely
punchy.
It was such a interesting looking film, and I am a little bummed because the series does not look like that at all. But it is not a bad looking series.
Oh, okay.
It's still very cool looking. So I would say give it a try.
Nice. That's awesome.
HBO trying to fill that gap.
Yeah, well, it's so weird because, we just had The Boys, which is a very dark, gritty superhero story, and then this comes along, which is also a very dark, gritty superhero story in a completely different way.
Right.
And I think we were talking about this last week, and it's just like, we are okay with more superhero stuff as long as it's good.
Yeah.
Exactly. As long as it's a different, interesting, unique take on it, sure.
Yep.
Give me stories all day long. It's our generations, I think, chill out. Let's not think about the real world, but let's have little hints about the real world and the fun thing we're watching so that we can be cathartic and enjoy ourselves at the same time.
Well, this is not little things. This has got some very blatant overtures of things that we are dealing with right now, and it's really dark, and it's stuff that, I mean, you're going to be like, oh, I know exactly what they're talking about here.
Why is it that what is it about right now that we're like, now we really want to know about Chernobyl? Like, why is this the year that we're like, yes, tell me everything. How quickly did the rubber melt? I need to know. I should be right there. Give me like real life on the ground perspectives of this.
Is it really well told, really well made show?
It is so good. It's true. Well,
Why? I'm not sure. How was excellent.
Yes, how was excellent. It was super good. So this week I actually got my mom starting to watch some of these 31 nights of Halloween horror films with me, and she was around when I was trying to fit one in one night. So I put on Shaun of the Dead.
Excellent.
And I didn't know she'd never seen a zombie film before. She had no idea. Yeah.
Not any zombie film?
Not any zombie movie.
That's probably makes Shaun of the Dead a little less humorous.
Because it's
ways.
so referential to Night of the Living Dead.
It's true. But, I didn't realize until it already started that was the case. And so I was kind of trying to explain as I was going along. I was like, and so this references this other movie. And this is about this. I'm not a fun person to watch movies around, apparently. But at the end of it, because she was like, okay, well, aren't there other kinds of zombies or something? And we were talking about, the rules of zombies. And then afterwards, I got to give her a quiz about zombies. I was like, okay, so how do you become a zombie? How do you kill a zombie? What do zombies eat? We went through the whole thing. It was really sweet. Thank you, Shaun of the Dead, for giving me that moment.
You sound like an awful person to watch a movie with. Do you quiz everybody after watching a film?
Just my mom.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Did she enjoy it?
She did, yeah. I think she was a little lost, but she was really excited to see Bill Nighy because she really likes, because she loves Love Actually. So it was like, oh, it's that guy, Bill Nighy. Yeah, that one, the guy who's in the movies I liked. All these 4 random other movies I enjoy. Oh, you mean these movies? Yes, that guy, Bill Nighy. Yes, that guy. He's British, right? Yes, he's British. She will never remember his name. That's okay. So what'd you get up to, Eric? Oh, wait, no, you already told us. You watched Watchmen. What'd you get up to, Kelly?
Oh, that
was
him.
me.
Oh,
He
okay,
watched
I'm
the
sorry.
Watchmen.
My brain is just on fire.
I watched several. Only what I've got is another one of those ones where it's like I think this will be the movie I'm going to talk about.
Oh.
Not quite.
You're really good at researching for these things. I feel like such a failure. I'm like one and done. I have committed. I'm going to just go all the way with this movie, whatever
I hate this
it is.
movie, and it is still going to be my pick.
Well, the Lake Placid effect.
Yep.
Well, the first one I kind of went with was, and it's still a good movie, but just didn't quite hit the right notes, was Monster Squad.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What was not good about it for you?
It's a good movie. It just didn't quite hit the notes I wanted for this particular subject.
Oh, man. I watched that movie for the first time just a couple years ago, so I don't have any of the fond childhood memories. And I was just like, this is a dark story for kids. Like, that
really
kid is clearly getting beat by his parent. Like, that. Like, there is a lot of underlying stuff in there.
I mean, I didn't watch it until, I don't know, maybe less than 10 years ago. I never watched it in its first run. I mean, I was surprised Shane Black was one of the writers.
That's right, yeah.
Who wrote the excellent and underrated Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and the Nice Guys.
Yeah. Nice Guys, so good. Airplane Edition.
It was Stan Winston doing the makeup for the creatures, which a really nice reimagining for Frankenstein and the creature because you couldn't. Yeah. Universal had those iconic looks copywritten. I liked it. I didn't dislike the film. It just wasn't quite what I was looking for, but it's still a great watch.
Yeah. So. Not the movie you'd watch on Halloween or in thinking of the Halloween season specifically, not the pure soul.
Although I did like that the mom called the Van Helsing diary the Van Halen diary.
Nice.
That is really good writing right there.
And the neat scene with Frankenstein approaching the little girl in the lake, which, ends very differently than it did in the original movie.
Very cool.
Any more for you?
Yeah, well, I did a revisit to a film I haven't seen since I saw it first in 1980. Do you guys remember a movie called Fade to Black?
No.
Oh yeah.
Dennis Christopher, who was coming off of what's the film I love so much? The bike riding film that
Jaws.
Rad?
Yes.
E.T.
Rad.
E.T.
Yes, it's Rad.
Oh, son of a bitch!
Yes.
You know the movie you're talking about.
Breaking Away.
Yes, thank you.
No, it's not breaking away.
Not Breaking. Certainly not Breaking 2.
No, it's Breaking Away, Electric Boogaloo. He had just come off of that, which was a real sleeper hit. And so for his next film, he chose to play a very odd film buff who was super nerdy and living with a dominating aunt who there was some weird stuff going on there. Like maybe she was doing something to him when he was a kid or something like that.
Yeah, uncomfortable film.
Yeah, he's very nerdy and he just finally breaks and decides he's going to kill all the people who have been bothering him. It would have been a really good pick for the serial killer episode, actually. But his thing is he dresses up like the villains in the movies he loves and kills the people that way.
Oh my
So
God,
he
that's so cool.
dresses up like Dracula at one point and like a mummy. And oddly, the creepiest is he dresses up as Hopalong Cassidy at one point, and he's got a weird Hopalong Cassidy mask, and it is fucking creepier than any Jason mask or something like that.
Ooh.
So anyway, I watched it again. I loved it again. He's infatuated with this woman he meets who looks just like Marilyn Monroe, and he's got this thing for Marilyn Monroe, but who doesn't? And it's got a really neat weird ending that makes a ton of sense, that takes place above Grau's Chinese Theater, and it's just I really enjoyed it. Fade to Black.
Well worth watching.
Amazing.
Impossible to find. I had to actually dig out my DVD, which is a double feature with I think Gates of Hell or something like that. Because I went to just, I'd gotten so used to just streaming everything that I went searching for that. It's not streaming anywhere. Then I pulled out the disc and I noticed there was like a little warp on it. And I was thinking, I hope this plays okay. And it did.
Oh, that's good.
But I went on to look like on Amazon to see if I could just rent it or something like that. No. But available there for like $400.
Oh my God.
If you wanted to buy it.
Rip it right now. Wow. Rip it before Discrot gets to it.
That one's surprising because I know it's got a huge cult following.
Yeah.
I would think it'd have something.
Yeah.
That's really wild.
There's probably 1 million copies on eBay going for like $10 each that are like terrible rips.
No, well,
like
yeah, could be.
CDR versions.
Yeah, exactly. I would talk more about other things I've watched, but I've honestly been far too busy.
Working out.
Yeah.
This Crypticon Film Festival started up taking submissions again this last week, so I've kind of been doing the same sort of.
Exactly. I've been production for a short project that I put out, and it's just taking all my time. I've not slept in a long time.
We'll let it slide this time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, should we just slide in there? Or speaking of sliding,
let me just mention a different movie that I watched that I also revisited, Amityville 2, The Possession.
Okay.
Is this the original Amityville 2 or the remake?
Is there a remake Amityville 2?
I think there is. I don't know.
There's definitely a remake Amityville.
Yeah, it's
there's
really
like
bad,
9
too.
films
And
in
there's
the
the
franchise
Amity
now.
LLC, or I don't know. There's so many ghosts.
Oh, you're
whatevers.
thinking Hell House.
I
LLC.
know. I'm just saying I'm sure there's also some dumb.
So this
remake
is like an
series.
80s film or something.
Yeah, this is from 1982, if I remember correctly. It is not great. It's still 100 times better than the original. I really hate that people have said that this is a classic film. And
You mean the original?
The original Amityville Horror. It is a shit show of a film. It's awful. Bad acting by really good actors. Bad writing. Nothing scary happens.
Oh,
This
bummer.
is a little more interesting in that it pretends to be a prequel. So you're getting the
that's right.
the murders of the family that lived there first.
Nice.
Only they completely change how the murders go down, and they have this bizarre I don't remember the bizarre incestuous relationship that the brother and the sister have.
What?
But it did kind of make the movie a little more interesting. Because honestly, I was like, "Jesus, this is stupid." And then he kind of makes a move on her, and they start making out, and I was like, "Well, okay, this got a little more interesting. What the fuck is going on here?" And it's because he's, a demon-possessed kid.
And she's just horny.
No, she seems pretty uncomfortable with the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So, so that puts a weird twist into the story. Then he goes around and 40 minutes in, he kills everybody. And I thought, I kind of thought this was where this was going to climax.
Yeah.
Instead, he goes to jail, and the family priest then has to try and exorcise him.
Oh my gosh.
From the jail, and when that's not working, he breaks him out and then brings him back to the house to try and do, and then God, it just turns into this bizarre fucking movie.
Oh my god.
It was so much more entertaining than the first film or any of the other films in the franchise. So if you haven't seen Amityville 2: The Possession in a while, you should check that out.
That sounds wonderfully awful.
Yeah, it's a good one for Halloween. Okay, so with that being said, let's take a break. We'll hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back.
For Halloween, Toys R Us doesn't miss a trick, and the prices are a treat. We've got costumes for all Toys R Us kids, even grown-ups, and loads of candy, makeup, masks, and more. Toys R Us will make your Halloween supernatural.
And we're back. I like it when we get in nice, clean entry back into the show. Eric, this was your choice.
That's right. Movies that make you feel and think about Halloween.
Yay.
But like I was saying last time when I introduced this concept, we watch horror films year round.
Yeah.
So the idea of it being Halloween, now I'll watch horror, is very foreign to us. So for me, the idea of Halloween strikes a weird note of nostalgia, childhood, and fear, which is this weird combination that I always kind of like to find something that represents that. Because, I'm going to watch horror films in November, too, and December, and all the rest of the months.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was looking through and considering a few of those. And last week we talked about episodes that took place on Halloween.
Right.
Well, my original thought for that, and I'll go ahead and say the movie now, was Lady in White.
Blanky, where are you going?
To school.
Halloween, 1962. The problems of the world were a universe away from a place called Willow Point Falls. Or maybe that was only the way it seemed.
Are you hurt?
What's that look like? Ketchup?
That was the Halloween Frankie Scarlatti didn't make it home.
Let me out of here!
That was the night she came into his life.
Where are you going? I got a phone.
Lady in White. An extraordinary adventure. A haunting mystery. A very special movie. Lady in White.
The 1988 film, which takes place partially on Halloween and then some other days afterwards. Well, rewatching the movie, it's a lot goofier than I remember.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of strange humor in it. There's a lot of intentional humor, and there's a lot of unintentional humor, I think. Like the grandfather who threatens to drown himself because grandma won't let him smoke anymore. And so there's a shot of the guy with a full bathtub, and he's bent over it with his face in the water. And grandmother yells in something about, "Oh, your cigarettes are in your pocket." So they've fallen out into the bathtub while he's trying to kill himself. Great little, and that's a great intentional humor moment. And there's a lot of other weird, goofy, fun things like with the little kids and stuff like that. This actually really now makes me, and then there's also some legitimate creepy moments. Oh. So I was like, this fits the bill perfectly for this concept. So I'm like, okay, I gotta watch this because I know I'm picking this subject, so I'm moving it to that. So let's get back to the numbers here before we go into the movie more. I watched this on a service called Hoopla, which is now I don't know if it's true in all cities, but it's labeled as King County Library Systems app. So you can borrow movies and ebooks and comic books and music. It's not the greatest, smoothest app. Search engine is truly bizarre, but that's the place I could find to watch it easiest. And the ratings for this one, 67 critics, 69 crowd, so fairly even on that. It was budgeted at $4.7 million. This was not a box office hit at $1.7 million. Directed and written by Frank Lalagogi? Lalogi?
Sure.
Oh.
He directed the 1981 Fear No Evil and 95 Mother. I use the years because there's a lot of movies with those two names.
Right.
I was going to say, wait, Mother. Oh, okay, good.
No, definitely not that one. Starring Luke Haas.
Lucas.
You're right. So you know who this is. The Revenant, Inception, Zoolander, tons of films. This guy's been in a ton of stuff. Would you like to guess at the next actor? Len?
I don't remember.
Carew? He's the older guy. He's in Blue Bloods, Executive Decision.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Alex Rocco, who has done just a few films like The Godfather and, of course, Dream a Little Dream. Two classics together there. Catherine Hellmond, who I got to admit was a little off-putting because she's so recognizable from Who's the Boss and Soap. And she's she's the lady in white. So it's a little weird seeing her kind of as the ghost. So I'm sure if you're watching this now and you're under 40, you probably won't have that reaction. The idea is an author is telling the story of how when he was a little kid growing up in the 60s, early 60s, small town, he's haunted after witnessing the murder of a little girl. The opening, I got to tell you, is right of a Spielberg movie. And it's sweet, old-timey kind of, everything was wonderful then. But then there's two really nasty bullies who decide they're going to lock this kid up in the coat closet and just leave him there overnight, basically, is what it ends up being. And in the evening, this is where one of the creepy scenes comes in, where he witnesses this ghost of a little girl getting murdered in the coat closet.
Whoa.
And it's just like, So it's got really solid creepiness to it. He notices in the attack, something falls out and disappears down the vent. Well, the next morning, somebody comes in to get into the vent. A real person arrives in the vent to take something out of it because apparently this was going to be, they're redoing the duct system over the Halloween break or something. And it's a very dark story, which is probably where there's some of the humor because he's not just he's a sexual child predator. Doesn't just kill, he's also a sexual predator. At times it's narrated a lot, which, is give or take. Some movies it works real well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes this works really well, sometimes it's really dramatic. Wonderfully clumsy scene of exposition when he sits there and reads a newspaper. What's going on? It's like, all right. And part of why this also didn't fit in as a creepy Halloween night is it's heavy in the melodrama too. That those dramatic moments are very dramatic. It has that strange late 50s, early 60s nostalgia that was so popular through the 80s, which Spielberg probably did best and a whole lot of other people tried to do as well. Then the outside of the Lady in White's house, they're very obviously in a studio. The outdoor scenes are very much studio-looking woods and stuff, so it creates this weird surrealism around the stuff as well. So when it's light, it's pretty light, and it's kind of goofy and fun almost. It's got that weird nostalgia thing I was talking about, which isn't a time period I'm necessarily nostalgic for myself, but has that element to it. And then there are moments like when they get to the Lady in White's house and some stuff there near the endings and stuff where it's very creepy. The ending is very creepy, which I think is what sticks with most people remembering it being very scary, is the ending is very well executed with creepiness. So that's why, for me, this fits that Halloween feel.
Ooh.
Boy, when it's goofy, it's really goofy. I just watched this again because I hadn't watched it in years. It's one I actually own, too. But I'm going, this is not quite how I remembered it being.
Yeah, I don't remember much of it at all, if I'm being honest. But I do remember liking it when I saw it, which was, right when it came out.
Oh, okay. So.
Yeah, I just bought a Blu-ray copy of it from Shout Factory, which is I'm planning on watching very shortly here.
Good.
Since it's Halloween, probably today. So I'm excited to see how this pans out.
And the Academy Award for Best Actress goes to Vanessa Williams.
Ooh, I've been waiting for this day all my life. First, a Tony or an Oscar. I don't know. I don't know what Vanessa Williams has award-wise. Now, finally, not just a singing award.
Anyways, so that's my first pick. Who would like to go next?
I can go next unless you want to.
No, you're more than welcome to.
All right. This turned out to be a difficult choice for me.
Ooh.
Not because I don't have go-to movies, but because I have very specific go-to movies for Halloween, and we've already talked about them, sometimes ad nauseum. Trick or Treat, the metal Halloween.
Yes.
I love that, and I watch that all the time, but especially around Halloween.
Yeah.
The Charlie Sheen movie, The Wraith.
I've never seen that.
Oh,
But
it's
you have
awful.
the soundtrack, too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's stupid as hell, but I love it. Or I would go with Creep Show, the original Creep Show. But in the spirit of the podcast, I was like, look, I think that everybody who listens to this podcast probably loves Creep Show. So what I decided to go with is Creep Show 2.
5 years ago, Stephen King and George Romero, two masters of the macabre, created their hallmark of horror, Creep Show. Many would argue that nothing of significance has happened since. Until now.
A coordinate chief wouldn't have.
Maybe you don't get out much.
Oh, this is crazy. This is totally crazy.
Maybe you're always running late.
I gotta go.
Or maybe you just have other things on your mind.
They gotta make me a movie star.
But if you only make it to one scary film all year, make it one you remember all year long. Creep Show 2.
What is it?
I don't know.
So don't just sit there.
I'm gonna swim for it right now.
Walk. Run. Swim if you have to.
I got you!
But whatever you do, don't take your time. Because the scares come twice as quickly in
You.
Creep Show 2.
From 1987. Rotten Tomatoes critics, 33%. Audience, 40%.
Ooh.
This is not
Thanks,
a great
audience.
movie, but I'm going to try and fight for it here because I kind of like it.
I can't remember if I've seen this one or not, but I will figure it out as we go along.
Okay, so it was directed by Michael Gornick, who was the cinematographer for Creep Show. And he's done several Tales from the Dark Side episodes, Monsters, if you remember that series. He directed episodes of Golden Years, which was a Stephen King TV series, if you guys kind of remember that. Mm-hmm. And in other capacities, he has worked on The Stand, Langoliers, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Martin, and Night Riders.
Wow.
Yeah, so George Romero, buddy.
Yes, and that is why he's got this role, because you'll remember Creep Show was Romero and King's thing.
Yeah.
The stories were by Stephen King, but the screenplay is by George Romero.
Oh.
The budget on this was $3.5 million, and the box office was $14 million.
Wow.
all
It's pretty
right.
good.
But let me just say this. In 1981, The budget for Creepshow was $8 million. In 1987, the budget for Creepshow 2, $3.5 million. Which would explain why it does not look nearly as good as Creepshow.
Yeah.
It stars George Kennedy in one of the segments, Holt McCallany, and he's the guy from Mindhunter now.
Oh.
He plays the Indian with long hair that's going to take him to Hollywood. Eric's looking at me with a glassy look, so I'm guessing you have not seen.
I was
this
waiting
film.
for a character from Mindhunter when you did that description. It's like, what?
No. He's the real burly agent in Mindhunter. Dorothy Lamour in her last film, and Tom Savini, who actually plays the creep in this. It's got 3 segments. So the first segment is problematic. It is called Old Chief Woodenhead, and it's basically a revenge story about George Kennedy and his wife have like a tiny little corner store on the Indian reservation, and he gets killed by these kind of punks who live out there, and his cigar store Indian that stands on the porch outside the store comes to life and takes revenge.
Whoa.
And a lot of people hate this episode and hate Creepshow because of this episode. You know, cite racism, all of this stuff. I can't argue any of that stuff. But if you're one who can watch movies and understand that, this was a different time, then, it still is fairly effective. It's got some pretty creepy scenes in it. And I actually like the look of the wood Indian moving around. It's obviously just a man in a costume, but it's effective. The second segment is called The Raft. Everybody fucking loves this segment. This segment, to me, is far more problematic because there is a very rapey scene in it where this guy is basically molesting this girl while she's asleep. It's about these college kids who go out to this little tiny lake that has a floating raft in the middle of it, and it's after the summer has ended, so it's like the first weekend in September or something like that, and nobody is out there anymore. And that's the whole point, because they are going out there to smoke some doobies and listen to some music and swim and get laid. And there's something out in the water there, this oily black thing that is pretty fucking cool. It kind of gets a hold of you and then strips you of your flesh and basically eats you like some kind of radioactive
blob.
Yeah, it's
Water
pretty
blob.
fucking great.
Yes, I have seen this one, but I don't think I've seen it since the 80s.
Yeah, it is a good, very, very Stephen King segment. In fact, it's based on a story from Skeleton Crew, if I remember correctly. But it's got this big rape scene basically in the middle of it, and nobody talks about that. So what gives, all you people who are worried about this kind of stuff? This is the reason you should not like this movie. Not the overt racism in the first segment.
Well, you're selling me. You're selling this one.
Not sure that I will be watching this one today.
I appreciate how you're really leaning into this.
Painting the picture. Yes,
it's Halloween.
The third segment is called The Hitchhiker, and this is where the catchphrase "Thanks for the ride, lady" comes from, that everybody knows about this movie. And it's a lady who is late to get back to her house because she's having a fling with some male gigolo that she's paying. She takes off racing home in her Mercedes and hits a hitchhiker on the side of the freeway and then decides to run. But she keeps seeing this hitchhiker and she keeps hitting him, and he keeps taking the damage. So every time she sees him, he's bloodier and less human looking. At one point, he's all mangled and he's on her windshield. Thanks for the ride, lady.
Oh my God.
And it's very much a morality story. All of these things that's the way Creepshow works, and that's because it's a ripoff of the old Tales from the Crypt series. It is probably the reason that the Creepshow television series is not working, because we had Tales from the Crypt after Creepshow and Creepshow 2. And Tales from the Crypt really nailed down what Creepshow was doing.
Yeah, they did.
And the Creepshow television series is not doing that. So it's interesting. Anyway, I got a little bit of trivia on this.
Ooh.
There were supposed to be 5 segments in this, like the first Creepshow, but they were running over long. They were running out of money, and so 2 of them were not filmed. One of them was a bowling segment where a undead bowling team comes and bowls against the team that caused them to be murdered on their tour bus.
Oh, that's an interesting story.
It sounds fun.
Yeah.
The second segment that was not filmed is called The Cat from Hell. And if you have seen the movie Tales from the Dark Side, it was filmed for that and starred Buster Poindexter as a hitman who is hired to kill this cat. And it turns out, Romero also directed Tales from the Dark Side, and it was supposed to be the actual Halloween or Creepshow 3. For whatever reason, they decided to rebrand it as Tales from the Dark Side. I don't know why. It's very odd. But, so there's that. Romero always said that Tales from the Dark Side was the official Creepshow 3. Little bit of other trivia here. Barbara Eden, TV's Jeannie, was supposed to be the driver in The Hitchhiker.
Oh.
Something happened right before shooting.
Did she hit a hitchhiker?
No, I think
she's like, it's too close to home.
I think she broke her foot or something, if I remember correctly, and she
pressing
just wasn't
the
able
gas
to do it.
too hard, eh? Sorry.
In The Raft,
method actor.
One of the girls is wearing a Horlicks University shirt, which I thought was great because Crate from the first Creepshow takes place at Horlicks University.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
there's a neat
right.
little tie-in there. And then my favorite bit of trivia, we always joke about this, and we've all been on movie sets and everything. By the time shooting began at the end of the first day, they were 10 days behind schedule.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Is impressive.
Yeah, I love shit like that.
Explains a lot.
So I chose this because the films that I wanted to choose, I've already spoken about, but also I then pulled back and I was like, okay, what movie makes me think about Halloween coming up and everything? Because to be honest, I don't do a lot of rewatching movies anymore because there's so many good new movies out. I'm just trying to catch up. Yeah. And so I thought, well, what makes me think of Halloween back then? And this came out when my buddy and I, we had vehicles and we were going to the drive-ins every weekend and watching movies. And my buddy Adam had a souped up, I don't know what it was, a 70 or a 71 Nova that had the, the jacked up rear end and all that. And I remember we went and saw Creepshow 2 at the drive-in. And we had a good time with the whole thanks for the ride, lady.
Nostalgia.
Yeah. And that was right around Halloween, if I remember correctly. Probably the end of the summer, I guess, because they would have closed the drive-in. This is why I chose this. I didn't hate it.
Nice.
I didn't love it, but it did remind me of Halloween.
Aww,
very cool.
That's really cool. Well, I guess it's my turn. So
Well, it doesn't have to be, I guess.
You guys want to go again?
Episode over.
That was just the practice round. No, for real. So the movie that I chose was is called Halloween Tree.
It was a small town by a small river and a small lake in a small northern part of a Midwest state. There wasn't so much wilderness around that you couldn't see the town. On the other hand, there wasn't so much town around that you couldn't see and feel and touch the wilderness. And the town was full of fences to walk on and sidewalks to skate on, and the muted cries and laughter of boys and girls, full of costume dreams and pumpkin spirits, preparing for the greatest night of the year, better than Easter, better than Christmas, Halloween.
Have either of you seen this movie?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. So, I love this movie. It's just rewatching it. Every time I rewatch it, it impresses me more and more how great it is. So it's an animated, kind of a straight to TV/cassette kids movie, done by Hanna-Barbera. It came out in 1993, and it's 69 minutes, so it runs a little bit shorter than most films. But I'm sure it played across probably like an hour and a half or 2 hours on TV, something like that. It's based off of the Ray Bradbury novel, which was written in 1972, also called Halloween Tree, which I have not read, but maybe
so good.
Maybe tonight I will.
Tonight, Halloween night, you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, perfect night.
2 movies and a book.
How long is your Halloween?
As long as it needs to be.
365 days.
Oh,
there it is.
It was coming. Except for leap year, then it's 364.
I'm way too specific with this joke.
The audience award, or jeez, come on, words.
The audience award for Rotten Tomatoes goes to
85%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's no critic on there. I also have no idea what the budget or the return would have been, since it's a TV flick. But I do know that we have some really awesome talents involved in this. It stars.
Drum roll, please.
Right? It's narrated by Ray Bradbury, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it stars Leonard Nimoy as Mr. Munshroud. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you have those two voices going back and forth. And actually, the first time that I heard that, I thought that Leonard Nimoy was the narrator, because the narrator does sound a little bit like Bradbury does actually sound a little bit like Leonard Nimoy. And Leonard Nimoy in this does not sound like Leonard Nimoy until you realize it's Leonard Nimoy, because he's doing a lot of like character acting.
Man, I know this film and I like this film, and I don't think I ever realized that was Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. He does a really good, crazy, weird old man / monster guy.
Now, did you watch this on your own copy, or how else do you know if this can be seen?
So the best way to get a hold of this would be, I think you can buy it now on DVD on Amazon, but for a long time I could not find it anywhere. So I have a VHS copy I got from eBay, of course, and nice. And you can find it on some streaming platforms that probably shouldn't be. Well, no, actually, I couldn't find it. No, I take that back. I couldn't find it on YouTube. So this time around, I actually did pay for it again, because it's worth it, on Amazon. So you can get it for, I think, $4 rental, or it only like an SD version exists, but I think they updated it at some point, because it does actually look really good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the thing that struck me when I first started rewatching it again is just how beautiful it is, and the music in it is absolutely amazing. It's unbelievably gorgeous, and I had to look up who did it, because I was like, this is too good of a score. And the composer is John Debney. I can't read my own handwriting.
Let me help you.
Ask Eric to pronounce it.
Right, just wait for our listeners to call us in. They'll give us the answers.
Right.
In angry letter form later. But he's done a ton of stuff. So he actually did the Orville. So the current TV series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did the Jobs movie, the Steve Jobs movie. He did Greatest Showman, Beach Bum, Isn't It Romantic, Dora the Explorer. He does everything. He basically is the composer that people go to. He's done 205 titles.
Wow.
Listed for him. So he just knocked this out of the ballpark. It is just it has an amazing composed track that takes you all the way through. The story is of four childhood friends who are getting ready on Halloween, and they're going to go out trick-or-treating, and they're on their way to go grab their kind of kids leader, Pip. He's the friend that they all want to impress, the one who's the best among them, the boy star. They really go into how amazing this kid is, right up top. I'm like, you guys got to lean off how great Pip is. Come on, he's fine.
His
I'm
name's
sure.
Pip.
Pip, first of all. Then, so we're following these 4 kids, and they're on their way to go get this friend of theirs. And when they arrive at his house, there's an ambulance parked out front, and there's they said it's weird because there's no Halloween decorations. How come there's no Halloween decorations? Something must be terribly wrong. And so there's this weird kind of almost fantastical, nostalgic thing where instead of just saying, oh, hey, there's a tragedy and something's wrong and we can tell simply because of the ambulance, they lead into it in this really beautiful way that I think is very Bradbury, where they give you some kind of clue that kids would pick up on, right? If something isn't decorated for a holiday, then there's something wrong going on in there. So I thought that was really neat. It sounds kind of hokey when they say it out loud, but if you think about a kid watching it, it actually is pretty powerful. So they show up at the house. Their friend is being hauled off, and they go up to the front door, and there's a note left for them from him saying, I've had some trouble with the old appendicitis. So go on and trick or treat without me. Get on. And I'm like, at what point did this kid have time to write this note? But he's very considerate. And pins it to the door. He's like, hold on, ambulance. I gotta put this note up for my friends. They're gonna be here any second now. They think they see him, though, off in the woods because they're like, maybe this is some kind of prank. This is just too crazy for him to be getting hauled off in this gurney. So they see him running through the woods, and so they start chasing after him, and they end up at this old spooky house, which has this giant tree out front that is a tree filled with pumpkins, and the pumpkins each have their own face carved in them. They're all very different, and essentially they represent individual souls. They go up to the front of the house, knock on the door. The house is very haunted, very alive, very dark and spooky. I mean, as they go up the stairs, they start to like move around like old broken piano keys, and they have to like race up them. They dare each other to knock on the front door. And of course, we get Mr. Munshroud, who arrives and invites them in. And we begin the tale of following the adventure of what the true meaning of Halloween is. So he kind of looks them up and down, looks at all their costumes and says, well, what are you supposed to be, you dumb kids? You don't even know what these costumes symbolize. One's a skeleton, one's a monster, one's a witch, and one's a mummy. He's like, you don't even know what Halloween is. Like, you kids are dumb. And I think this is part of the reason why I like this movie so much. I'm like, yeah, why do we do the things we do? We should know context and appreciate it. He's like, you don't even know what Halloween's about. You need to get out of my hair. I am late for a very important date. And it's very, very like Alice in Wonderland feel at this point. And you can tell there's some kind of mysterious, mythical thing going on. And essentially, they see their friend up in his tree trying to get a pumpkin that has his face on it, which basically represents his soul. So the friend is a little see-through, indicating basically we're seeing his spirit. He's basically, on death's door, and he's trying not to die. And so the kids don't get this at all, though. They have no idea of why their friend is in this situation. They really want to help him grab his pumpkin. And the friend disappears in this sort of tornado, and Mr. Munshroud decides to go after him. And they say, we want to go with you. And he says, actually, okay, why don't you come with me? You can help me get this friend of yours. I definitely don't want him for nefarious reasons. I don't have his pumpkin soul on my tree for literally no reason. It's fine. Don't worry, I'm a good guy. Why don't you come along? And he takes them through 4 different ages, 4 different periods of history that show off different aspects of Halloween and things that we celebrate today. So they go through the Salem witch trials. Well, actually, it's not quite the Salem witch trials. It's a little bit different. It's Stonehenge. So they're kind of hinting at some stuff, but not quite square on the nose. They go to Egypt and talk about mummification and tombs and the feast of, I can't read my handwriting if it says guests or
That's
gifts.
Okay.
You know what I mean.
Leave a segment or two out.
Right? It'll be fine. They go to France, Notre Dame, and they look at the gargoyles, and they talk about what it is to be a monster and what to be grotesque. And then they go to they end on Mexico, where they are talking about Dia de los Muertos. Day of the Dead. Talking about Day of the Dead. And it's just this really, in each location, they see their friend Pip and they're trying to chase him down. And at each location, whoever is in the costume, A, learns about what their costume's about, but B, has this kind of touching moment where they confess to Pip something that they feel bad about that they did, that they regret having done to him. So it's this weirdly emotional, like, roller coaster that you're going on until you get to the end where you get the loudest, proudest kid named Tom who basically said, you know, I really wished ill will against you and wanted to be the leader, and you're always the leader. So I wanted something bad to happen to you, and I'm really sorry. And it's really unbelievably, oddly touching. It's super crazy. It's fantastical. It's dark as hell. It's semi-educational. At the time I saw it as a younger person, I thought it was like really teaching me stuff, but now that I've seen it again, I'm a little like, well, that's kind of right. It actually won an Emmy for best or outstanding writing in an animated program that year.
Cool.
I couldn't recommend it enough. The reason why I chose this piece, and I'm not going to spoil it, by the way, whether or not they somehow do or do not save Pip, but I will say they do kind of make this amazing sacrifice to potentially help him out. It's so good.
I was a little surprised when you said it was Hanna-Barbera because it is really a pretty movie.
It's pretty.
And Hanna-Barbera does shit animation.
I know. It's stunning. Like, the painting in it is really good. The animation isn't always like super, the movement isn't necessarily 100% the best, but the actual art is just great. Like, I was really impressed watching this film again. The reason why I chose this is I caught part of it on TV in real time as a younger person, and I'd gone to like 8 years of Catholic school, so everything I knew about Halloween was very Catholic oriented, which isn't to say that it's not cool. I mean, we have like All Souls Day, All Saints Day, All Hallows Eve, all that kind of stuff. So we do like to spread out the Halloween.
Do like to party at those Catholic
We like to talk
schools.
about the dead a lot. It's pretty neat, guys. It was always one of my favorite, well, it was definitely always my favorite holiday, but to get to watch something that really showed me a lot more context of these things that society had just been buying into, and to show it in such a sort of, you know, there's pumpkins and there's leaves falling across and there's kids in their outfits, and you know, it's very nostalgic in that way that you guys have been talking about earlier, where it's got that almost 1950s feel to it via 80s, although this was 1983, but it has that feeling to it where they're really like Americana, perfect little setting, little village. It's like you saw it in Michael's and you bought it because you were like, yeah, that's perfect. Great representation of something I like. Just spent way too much money. So it to me, it just really represented Halloween. And then as I got older, I've every single year I now watch it on Halloween because it's just,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it tonight.
That's
on Halloween?
So you said you've read the book?
Yes.
Do you remember the movie well enough to know if it's a good interpretation of the book?
I don't, but I do remember that I liked the movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think that I must have seen it when it aired on television,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it was over, like an hour and a half or maybe even 2 hours. This was, way before Cartoon Network or anything like that.
Oh, yeah. This was like a special, like a Sunday
Yeah.
night special or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't go wrong with
Halloween Tree?
Halloween Tree? Ray Bradbury?
Ray Bradbury. Let me say that again. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, like I'm going to cut that out.
Well, because when you chose this, my initial thought was, I'm going right to Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Sure.
And then I started watching it, and I was like bored to tears.
Oh, no.
And I remembered that.
Is this a cartoon as well?
No, it was a Disney movie,
Oh.
and the thing is, it's fucking fantastic looking and
Right.
acted and everything, but it's just a bore.
Oh, no.
It is so ripe for a remake or another adaptation of it or something, because it's such a great story, but they did not capture that in the film.
Oh, man.
That's
I would
too
say
bad.
that this one, the only downside of it is its death. I mean, it's not even a downside to me, but for adult viewers, it's definitely a kid's movie. Like, there's a lot of cheesy things. There's a lot of things where it's like, come on, kids. You don't see that the your friend is dead. Come on.
Well,
It's
you
very
just said whether you weren't going to say whether they succeeded or not.
I'm actually not really giving it away. I'm telling you.
So he lives.
I'm not going to give that away either. Your friend who's see-through, Mayor, who is in a spirit format currently, is not doing so hot and maybe isn't perhaps corporeal, and yet.
I still think, I mean, you know, young adult fiction is gigantic right now.
Yeah.
But if you want to introduce your kids to scary writing, you cannot do better than Ray Bradbury.
I really wish I'd read him as a kid because I read a lot of R.L. Stine, but I didn't.
Yeah, Bradbury, he doesn't fuck around. You know, he thinks kids should know about death and stuff like that. And I kind of agree. And this is 93. This is maybe only 4 years after. Did you guys ever watch Ray Bradbury Theater?
Mm-mm.
I don't think I did.
Oh, man. It was just every episode was a
one of his
1 hour adaptation of a story of his. And some of them not great, some of them really great. So if you're a Bradbury fan, you should search those out. That makes me want to go find those again.
Yeah.
Maybe we can watch them tonight.
What, tonight?
On
All
Halloween.
tonight?
How many episodes is it?
All
43?
together?
All right.
The three of us just
I think
hanging
we have
out
time.
on Halloween?
Right?
I
If you
gotta
don't
say
put
that-
Halloween sound effects in this, I'm going to be highly disappointed.
Don't count on it.
I'll loan you my
I'll just-
Chills of the Haunted Mansion Disneyland
I have that.
LP.
I have that one too. I got to say, this actually nailed. I think you guys nailed what I was going for. I think it's kind of an abstract idea of genre. We've been a little bit more specific in the past.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that this worked really well, and also will help expand, hopefully, our thinking of the genre things we can do. Because, you know, at some point it's going to be, well, we've done 45 episodes on ghosts.
Oh, you guys have no idea. I have a list of genre ideas, and some of it's like, oh, you're going to have to choose a movie with this actor in it. Or something
Yes,
like that.
definitely.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
I'm
think that
in.
we are in
We've got options.
Yeah, no worry about running out of options.
Awesome.
Speaking of which, it is my turn now.
And are we gonna do something we've done before after I
Yes,
said that?
we're absolutely going to revisit one of my favorite subgenres that we did, but it'll be brand new for Vanessa.
Ooh.
And this is the WTF movie again.
Love this subject too.
So the way this works, Vanessa, is just it's a catch-all for any weird movie that you wouldn't be able to actually figure out what the subgenre is. Like last time, Eric chose City of Lost Children, and I
Right.
chose The Dark Backward.
Okay.
Which
they
was
just-
great for me because I had never seen that before. I was like, 'cause I finally
City of Children or Dark
finally
Backward?
watched it.
Oh,
No,
okay.
City of Lost Children I've
Yeah.
liked for a long time. But I'd always wanted to watch The Dark Backwards. I finally did, and that is one fucked up movie.
It is, and it's just I don't know what subgenre you would call that, or even City of Lost Children. I mean, that's like, I guess in the broadest sense, fantasy.
Yeah.
But it's so bizarre and dark. That was a great pick. So yeah, this is
Cool.
just kind of whatever you want, but it's got to be a little weird.
Okay, I have literally no idea what I'm going to choose, but I'm excited.
Okay.
This sounds like a great challenge.
Excellent. So hey guys, thanks everybody. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween!
We'll see
Happy
you
Halloween.
in 1 week when we're talking about what the fuck.
WTF? Question mark.
5-star reviews. List a movie. Thanks.
Eric out.
Our show is recorded somewhere high above Naval Station Everett at the nexus of all realities and is engineered and produced by Eric Morgret. Our theme music is Strange Aeons Part 1 by the band Nightshade and is used with permission. Find Strange Aeons Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and wherever fine podcasts are found.